The first time I saw a human, I was certain they would be consumed alive by the ceremonial welcoming fauna of Concord Prime. It wasn't malice that led me to this conclusion, merely a seasoned observer's understanding of the complex choreography of interspecies diplomacy. As a Xylosian chronicler, I've documented the rise and fall of 17 interstellar civilizations. None, however, have provided a narrative as unexpectedly profound as that of humanity. My name is Zorp Glorbax. This is the account of how the galaxy's dismissal of humanity led to its most humbling lesson. The grand assembly chambers of Concord Prime gleamed with the accumulated splendor of 1,000 worlds. Suspended in the neutral space between major spiral arms, the massive station served as the beating heart of the galactic Concord, an alliance of species that had maintained a precarious stability for over 12 millennia. The Cthar dominated the proceedings, as they had for eons, their ancient, crystalline bodies catching and refracting light in patterns that subtly communicated their status. Ambassador Theron Vax, chief representative of the Cthar Dominion, occupied the most prominent position in the primary speaker's arc. His crystalline form had aged into a deep amethyst hue, a sign of wisdom and political power among his kind. Thousands of microfractures across his surface told the story of conflicts resolved and treaties negotiated over centuries of service. Another primitive species seeking admission, he remarked, not bothering to modulate his harmonic frequencies into the private spectrum as the Earth delegation approached through the Grand Corridor. One wonders how they've managed to achieve faster-than-light travel without destroying themselves. I adjusted my sensory membranes to better record the proceedings. The human achievement is indeed remarkable, Ambassador. Their technological progression has been unusually rapid. Theron Vax's crystalline structure pulsed with dismissive light patterns. Rapid and reckless, Chronicler Glorbax. All the reports indicate a chaotic, fractious species prone to dramatic cultural shifts and technological leaps without appropriate stabilization periods. The human delegation entered the chamber. They were led by a female, small by galactic standards, with a covering of dark synthetic material that adhered closely to her form. Lyra Valerius, Earth's first ambassador to the Concord, moved with the measured confidence of one who had rehearsed this moment extensively, yet her elevated respiratory rate betrayed her nervousness to any species capable of detecting it. Esteemed representatives of the galactic Concord, she began, her voice carrying through the translator fields. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I bring greetings of peace and a sincere desire for friendship. Her speech was well composed, emphasizing humanity's rapid cultural and technological growth, their artistic and scientific achievements, their desire to learn from older civilizations. It was precisely the type of address that had served other emerging species well in their introductions. The trouble began immediately afterward, during the ritual exchange of cultural artifacts. Lyra Valerius presented Ambassador Theron Vax with what she later explained was a handcrafted crystal sculpture representing Earth's solar system. The Cthar representative recoiled visibly, his crystalline form emitting sharp frequencies of alarm that overloaded several translator modules. You offer me the simulated corpses of my kind, arranged in a display of dominance. Theron's voice resonated with genuine shock and outrage. The human ambassador blanched. No, this is a representation of our home system, a gift of art, and the Cthar do not appreciate seeing their biological essence commodified as decorative items. I whispered urgently, stepping closer than protocol permitted. Crystalline structures are sacred living architecture to them. The catastrophe of the first impression was compounded when another human delegate, attempting to defuse the tension, suggested establishing a cultural exchange program featuring Earth's most popular music. The sample broadcast throughout the chamber contained rhythmic patterns that triggered emergency defensive responses in two aquatic species, resulting in the release of toxins that required the evacuation of an entire section. By the day's end, the Earth delegation had inadvertently violated 17 major cultural taboos, triggered 3 minor diplomatic incidents, and prompted Ambassador Theron Vax to formally request a security assessment of human integration potential. They are dangerously unpredictable, he declared to the inner circle of representatives. Their behavioral algorithms defy standard predictive modeling. How can we trust a species whose actions we cannot reliably anticipate? Lyra Valerius, to her credit, attempted damage control with remarkable persistence over the following weeks. I observed her working tirelessly, studying Concord protocols, apologizing for misunderstandings, and attempting to explain human perspectives. "We're adaptable," she told me during a rare moment of candor in one of Concord Prime's contemplation gardens. "That's our greatest strength. We make mistakes, yes, but we learn from them. We change. We grow. The Concord values stability above all," I explained. "Change is viewed with suspicion. Growth is expected to follow established patterns." She sighed, running a hand through her dark hair, a human gesture I had come to recognize as signifying frustration. "Then we have a fundamental incompatibility. Humans thrive on change. Stagnation terrifies us more than chaos." Unfortunately, the incidents multiplied. Earth trade delegates employed aggressive negotiation tactics that the Securian Commerce Guild interpreted as hostile market manipulation. Human scientists, eager to share research, bypassed critical ethical review protocols established by the Ancient Species Accord, leading to a formal censure. "They are dangerous not through malice, but through ignorance coupled with unbridled enthusiasm," Theron Vax declared during a High Council session. "Like children wielding plasma weapons, unable to comprehend the destruction they might cause." I found myself increasingly fascinated by the humans. Their approach to problem-solving often involved intuitive leaps that bypassed the carefully structured incremental progression preferred by Concord species. They formed emotional connections rapidly, displayed altruistic behaviors towards species with whom they shared no evolutionary history, and exhibited cognitive flexibility that most established Concord members found deeply unsettling. The situation reached critical mass approximately 72 standard cycles after the humans' arrival. An unmanned Earth exploratory vessel, testing a modified propulsion system, suffered a catastrophic navigation failure and materialized deep within the protected ancestral space of the Vale Collective, a powerful and reclusive founding member of the Concord. The Vale Collective, beings of pure energy who rarely interacted with physical species, responded with a show of force that nearly triggered an interstellar incident. Only the rapid intervention of Concord diplomatic vessels prevented potential casualties. "This can no longer be dismissed as cultural misunderstanding," Theron Vax announced during the emergency session that followed. "The humans represent an unpredictable variable in our carefully balanced equation. For the safety and stability of the Concord, I propose a formal vote on Resolution 7729 Epsilon, temporary isolation and observation of the human species from Concord space." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, transmission signals, pheromone releases, and electromagnetic pulses as representatives debated the unprecedented measure. Lyra Valerius requested and was granted a final opportunity to address the assembly before the vote. She stood alone at the center of the chamber, surrounded by representatives of civilizations that had traversed the stars while her ancestors were still mastering fire. "Esteemed members of the Concord," she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "I stand before you to acknowledge humanity's missteps. We have, through ignorance rather than intent, violated customs and protocols. We have moved too quickly, spoken too boldly, acted too directly." She paused, scanning the chamber. "But I ask you to consider whether these are truly flaws or simply differences. Humanity adapts rapidly because our homeworld demanded it. Earth has undergone dramatic climate shifts, astronomical events, and biological challenges that required us to evolve quickly or perish. Our social structures transform because we seek improvement rather than mere stability." Her voice grew stronger, more passionate. "Yes, we are unpredictable by your standards. But that unpredictability has allowed us to solve problems that would have extinguished our species. Our chaotic approach to art has produced works of beauty that move even non-human observers. Our reckless scientific inquiry has yielded medical treatments that could benefit multiple species in this chamber. She extended her hands, a human gesture of openness. The Concord claims to value diversity, yet you seek to isolate the very diversity of thought and approach that humanity represents. We do not ask that you embrace chaos, only that you allow us the opportunity to demonstrate that a different path can lead to valuable destinations. When she finished, a momentary silence fell over the chamber, a rare occurrence in a body where at least 7 species communicated continuously through various emissions. The vote was conducted through the Concord's Quantum Consensus Network, allowing instantaneous tallying of the representatives' decisions. The results materialized in the center of the chamber as a 3-dimensional projection. For temporary isolation, 87%. Against temporary isolation, 11%. Abstention, 2%. Resolution 7729 epsilon was approved. Earth and all human activities would be restricted from Concord space for a period of 50 standard galactic cycles, approximately 15 Earth years. All human vessels and personnel were to withdraw within 1 standard cycle. Observation posts would monitor Earth's development from a distance, and the situation would be reassessed at the conclusion of the isolation period. I watched Lyra Valerius as the results appeared. Her face displayed a remarkable sequence of emotions: shock, grief, anger, and finally, a strange calm that I could not interpret within any known behavioral framework. The Concord has voted, Theron Vax announced, his crystalline form radiating patterns of solemn authority. The human species will undergo a period of isolated development until such time as their societal and technological maturation reaches a point compatible with Concord integration. Lyra Valerius straightened her posture, raised her chin, and spoke a single sentence before departing the chamber. "We acknowledge your decision." The next week was a flurry of activity as human representatives throughout Concord space prepared for departure. I expected protests, appeals, perhaps even isolated incidents of defiance. Instead, I witnessed something far more intriguing: a coordinated, disciplined withdrawal executed with surprising efficiency. Lyra Valerius held a brief final press conference, a human concept adopted by Concord media representatives, before departing. Her statement was notable for its brevity and restraint. Earth respects the Concord's decision. We will use this period of separation to reflect, develop, and prepare for future interaction. We have received your message clearly. All Earth vessels and citizens will depart Concord space within the designated time frame. Later that day, my research assistant intercepted a secure transmission between Lyra and Earth's governing council. The brief message contained only one additional line not included in the public statement. Project Odyssey is now active. Full implementation authorized. Within 3 standard cycles, far ahead of the mandated withdrawal deadline, every registered human vessel had departed Concord space. Monitoring satellites reported that the Sol system was quickly surrounded by an unprecedented energy barrier that blocked most conventional observation methods. Occasional probe signals indicated significant increased energy production and resource utilization within the system, but specific details were impossible to obtain. Thus began what would later be called the Great Silence. For most of the Concord, life continued as it had for millennia. The human episode became a minor footnote in the vast history of galactic diplomacy, a cautionary tale about the importance of proper cultural integration protocols. I, however, could not dismiss my curiosity so easily. As a chronicler, I recognized patterns in history that suggested momentous events often germinated in periods of apparent quiet. I maintained contact with fringe traders and information brokers who occasionally ventured near the boundaries of the Sol system. The reports were fragmentary but intriguing. Massive construction projects detected through gravitational fluctuations. unusual energy signatures suggesting technological development well beyond what Earth had previously demonstrated. Occasional glimpses of vessels utilizing propulsion systems unlike anything in Concord records. 8 standard galactic cycles passed, approximately 8 Earth years. The isolation of humanity had become a historical footnote, rarely discussed in Concord sessions. Ambassador Theron Vax had added another 12,000 microfractures to his crystalline form, signs of his continuing diplomatic service. Then, without warning, everything changed. I was documenting a minor trade dispute between 2 insectoid species when emergency signals activated throughout Concord Prime. The station's defensive systems elevated to maximum readiness, a status not seen in over 700 cycles. The cause became apparent as I rushed to the observation deck along with thousands of other residents. A fleet had appeared at the edge of the Concord Prime system. Not a small diplomatic contingent or a trade caravan, but a vast armada of vessels arranged in a formation of mathematical precision. They were uniformly dark, absorbing rather than reflecting light, making it difficult to discern their precise numbers or configurations. Their arrival had bypassed every early warning system the Concord had established over millennia of defensive planning. Unidentified fleet, you have entered Concord's sovereign space without authorization, the automated defense protocol announced across all communication channels. Identify yourselves immediately or face defensive measures. A response came moments later, a multi-spectrum transmission that simultaneously utilized all standard Concord communication protocols along with several novel methods that our system struggled to interpret. The message was simple. Representatives of the United Earth Alliance request an immediate audience with the Concord Council. We have completed our observation period and are prepared to discuss terms for reintegration or alternatives. The transmission included visual data, a human female, older than I remembered, her face leaner, her eyes sharper. Lyra Valerius had returned, flanked by human military and scientific commanders with similarly composed expressions. The emergency session that followed was perhaps the most chaotic in Concord history. Representatives demanded explanations for how such a fleet could appear undetected, how humans had developed such technology in mere cycles, and most urgently, what their intentions were. When Lyra Valerius entered the chamber, the difference was immediately apparent. Gone was the eager, nervous diplomat seeking acceptance. In her place stood a confident leader who moved with the deliberate precision of someone who knew exactly what leverage she possessed. Esteemed representatives of the Concord, she began, her voice perfectly modulated to carry throughout the chamber without technological assistance. A subtle but powerful demonstration. 15 of your cycles ago, you determined that humanity required a period of isolation to develop appropriate maturity for galactic integration. She smiled. Not the warm expression of friendship I remembered, but something cooler, more measured. We wish to thank you for that decision. It proved to be precisely the catalyst humanity needed. Theron Vax's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. You appear before the Concord with an armada, Ambassador Valerius. This is not the approach of species seeking peaceful reintegration. We are not seeking permission, Ambassador Vax, Lyra replied calmly. We are offering an opportunity. Your isolation mandate provided humanity with something invaluable, focus. Without the distractions of adapting to Concord protocols and expectations, we directed our resources inward. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber with technical specifications, scientific advancements, and social metrics that caused visible reactions throughout the assembly. In 15 of your cycles, which, through certain localized temporal manipulation techniques we've developed, has been considerably longer from our perspective, humanity has achieved what your predictive models estimated would require centuries. We have unified our previously fractious global governance. We have solved our primary resource limitations. We have developed technologies that your sensors cannot even properly analyze. The display shifted to show three-dimensional renderings of technologies that even I, with my extensive knowledge of multiple civilizations, could barely comprehend. The implications were clear. Humanity had not merely caught up to Concord technological levels. They had surpassed them in several critical areas. We bring proposals, Lyra continued, not requests. We offer solutions to long-standing Concord challenges, the Cygnus sector energy crisis, the Medusan plague affecting 7-member species, the spatial anomaly threatening the Argent expanse. Our scientific advances can address these issues immediately. A tall human male in a formal uniform stepped forward. We also bring assurances. The United Earth Alliance fleet you observe represents merely 17% of our current defensive capacity. We have no interest in conflict, but we are prepared for any contingency. The chamber erupted into multi-spectrum chaos. Protests, threats, expressions of disbelief, and beneath it all, a current of unmistakable fear. Theron Vax rose to his full height, his crystalline body emitting patterns of formal authority. This presentation borders on threatening the Concord, the very behavior that necessitated your isolation. No, Ambassador, Lyra corrected him. We are simply being direct, a human trait you once found so disturbing. We learned from our previous experience that Concord species respect strength and certainty above good intentions. We have adapted accordingly. She gestured, and a holographic display changed to show a complex legal document. These are our proposed terms for reintegration. They include unprecedented technological and medical sharing, security guarantees for all member species, and a framework for cultural exchange that respects established protocols while allowing for innovation. And if we refuse, an Eldraxian representative demanded, its flame body flickering with agitation, then we will proceed independently, Lyra answered simply. Humanity has mapped 17 viable expansion corridors that avoid current Concord territory. We will develop those regions according to our own principles. The choice is yours, collaboration or parallel development. The Council debated for 3 full rotation cycles. I observed carefully, noting how the balance of power had shifted. Species that had dismissed humanity now sought private audiences with the Earth delegation. Ancient rivals found common cause in their concern about human intentions. Through it all, Lyra Valerius and her team remained composed, answering questions with precise clarity and never yielding their fundamental position. Humanity would no longer accept second-class status in galactic affairs. The final vote was remarkably one-sided. For accepting human reintegration terms, 92%. Against accepting human reintegration terms, 7%. Abstention, 1%. I sought out Lyra Valerius after the formal signing ceremony, finding her alone in one of Concord Prime's observation lounges, gazing out at the stars. A remarkable transformation, Ambassador Valerius, I said, adjusting my sensory membranes to their most receptive configuration. Or should I say, Council Member Valerius, given your new position? She turned, the artificial light catching the silver strands now threading through her dark hair. Zorp Glorbax, I wondered if you were still chronicling the Concord's history. Some chapters are more interesting than others, I replied. Humanity's exile and return will certainly be among the most compelling. She smiled, a genuine expression this time, more reminiscent of the young diplomat I had known. Not exile, chronicler. Opportunity. The Concord did us a great favor, though they couldn't have known it at the time. Project Odyssey. I ventured. I intercepted that transmission 15 cycles ago. It was already planned, wasn't it? Even before the vote. A contingency, she acknowledged. We suspected the Concord might reject us. Our analysts noted the cultural incompatibilities early on, but we never anticipated how completely the isolation would unite our species. Facing external rejection consolidated our historically divided planet in ways no internal crisis ever could. She turned back to the view of space. When we returned to Earth after the expulsion, there was initial despair, yes, but it quickly transformed into determination. If we cannot join their galaxy, "We will build our own future," became the rallying cry. Resources previously devoted to wars, trivial entertainments, and market competitions were redirected to research, space development, and social cohesion projects. And the temporal manipulation technology? That explains how you accomplished so much in 15 cycles. Her expression became guarded. One of many breakthroughs. We discovered that certain quantum principles, when applied to localized space-time, could create differential time flow. What was 15 years for the Concorde has been considerably longer for Earth. I processed this information carefully. The Concorde feared your unpredictability. It seems their fears were justified, though not in the way they imagined. "Fear of the unknown is natural," Lyra said, turning to face me fully. "But isolating what you fear merely gives it space to grow beyond your understanding or control." The Concorde could have guided our integration, shaped our development through genuine partnership. Instead, they pushed us away and created exactly what they feared most, a humanity that developed without their influence, that learned to stand entirely on its own. "And now?" I asked. "Now we do what humans have always done best: adapt. We'll work within the Concorde system where beneficial and innovate where necessary. The galaxy will be different, Zorp. Better, I believe, though change is rarely comfortable." As I departed, she called after me, "Make sure your chronicle mentions our most important lesson, Chronicler." "Which is?" I inquired. When the galaxy voted to exile Earth, humanity didn't wait to be asked twice. We heard the message the first time and wrote our own answer. In the years that followed, the human integration transformed the Concorde in ways both subtle and profound. Their technologies revolutionized energy production, medicine, and transportation. Their diplomatic approaches, direct yet flexible, broke deadlocks and conflicts that had persisted for centuries. Their art and culture, once deemed chaotically disruptive, became highly valued for stimulating new perspectives. Theron Vax, to his credit, adapted to the new reality with the pragmatism that had sustained his long career. In his final address before retirement, he made a remarkable admission: "The greatest threat to civilization is not chaos, but the illusion that stability can be maintained without evolution. The humans have taught us that different paths may lead to destinations we never imagined possible." As for myself, I continue to chronicle the unfolding history of this new era. I often reflect on whether the galaxy truly exiled Earth or merely provided the conditions for an inevitable destiny to manifest more rapidly. Did the Concorde's rejection forge humanity's strength, or merely fail to recognize what was already there? One thing is certain: when told they did not belong among the stars, humans did not beg for reconsideration. They built their own path to the heavens and returned on their own terms. Perhaps there's a lesson in this for all civilizations. Never underestimate those you dismiss. They may return with the power to rewrite the rules you thought immutable. The galaxy voted to exile Earth. Humanity didn't wait to be asked twice. They came back to ask the questions instead.